Right. So the fanfare says it all, folks. This is our 100th episode of the FilmFile, the film show for film geeks by film geeks. Hello and welcome to this. Well, who'd have thought we'd ever make it this far? Our 100th episode. For 100 episodes, I've been Lee Ford.
I've been Andy Meakin for about 106 of them.
Yes, you've done, of course, all the little additional pieces, and your commitment to the FilmFile has been tremendous. Happy 100th birthday, buddy.
And you, man. I mean, wow. It's really flown. It doesn't seem like yesterday since we got put into lockdown 1 and we started doing these chats week on week. And up at that point, I think we were already on episode 23 or something when we hit lockdown. And now it's just been a weekly show that all you listeners out there are appreciating, or maybe you're not appreciating. Feel free to let us know. But it seems to have flown by. Well, because I've been, like I said, we're taking a break after this week for a few weeks, and
it's Christmas after all.
I've been digging through the archives to find some bits and pieces to put together for little filler episodes, and you can hear from listening back to those early episodes how much the show's evolved. And how much our technology has evolved as well, because there were some shocking mic uses way back in the past.
Yeah, we did take our time trying to figure out how we were going to do it, especially when we weren't doing it in the same room. When we started this, dear listeners, we actually sat in the same room and recorded it basically as live. And then lockdown happened, and we had to figure out very quickly how we're going to do it. I've been through about 3-4 different mics, I think, during this to the one that I'm now currently using, and still feel the need for improvement. But yeah, it's been a ride. I mean, I've been thinking about what to say on this one, and I'm deeply grateful to Andy for for doing all the hard work that he does. To be perfectly honest, I do the bugger of all. Really, I just turn up and talk, but Andy puts in all the hard work on this, and therefore, if there were benefits to be reaped, then Andy should certainly be reaping them. But it's testament to you, sir, for helping make this show into what it is.
Cheers, buddy. I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, we saw it on the episode when you weren't around, and I basically had to talk to myself for an hour. That I couldn't do this show without someone to bounce things off, and it's been marvelous. This whole 100 show ride. Alongside you, because you're the perfect foil to my plans.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, we agree on a lot, but when we disagree, we respectfully disagree. But you know when to poke me with the right way in order to get a rant out of me. You know how to rein me back in when I start to go off on one. You've managed to keep the flow going, which means that the editing process isn't as hard as it could have been otherwise.
And I'm renowned for my flubs mid-flow. My brain works a lot faster than my mouth does, so which is unusual, really. So I'm thinking ahead, and my mouth has a tendency to try and catch up with what I'm thinking about. But I mean, I thought we'd start this episode with just a little bit of the secret origin of the FilmFile and how.
Before we do. Can I just quickly say, with regards to the flubs, there's flubs and there's also the ums and ers. You're a pauser and an and I've started to recognise them in the audio transcript to be able to condense them down. I'm a it's kind of person, so I keep trying to remove them because I realise that I say them far too much. And then there's the regular flubs. There's the very first flub that I made on the first episode, which has become a running joke, that The Rock is now referred to as Dwayne, not Dwayne The Rock Johnson, but Rock the Dwayne Johnson.
Yes, which I now actually use in my own personal vernacular whenever I'm having to describe The Rock.
And then other regular flubs to listen to, particularly from Lee's point of view. Whenever we talk about Tenet, listen carefully how he pronounces Tenet. And
yes.
he's always struggled with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I've struggled there, and apocalyptical.
You said it.
I know, because I knew you were going to.
You said it.
I know you were going to ask that, and it was. I was working it through.
But our flubs have become part of the charm. It's, I've deliberately kept some of them in because I think that some of them just completely reflect our personalities, and it shows that we're not a completely polished product, because we this show is, well, we'll talk about the origins, and I'll say what the whole idea behind this show is as part of the origins.
Yes, so the origin started. Now, I, as I've mentioned many times, still work for the BBC as a presenter and a bit of an entertainment guru. So I used to have a regular show on BBC Radio Sheffield for many, many years, 12 years all in all. And what used to happen is then I'd have to talk about the blockbusters because of the nature of the audience. It wasn't a dedicated film show, and felt that I was missing out, or being able to talk about other things I was passionate about, films like film news and the stuff that we do with the deep dives, or the unusual films that we couldn't mention on air. And then my role within, after getting made redundant from the B, changed a lot. I mean, I still work with them, and where I just be featured to talk about, again, blockbusters or TV and that kind of thing, or to pass comment if anything had happened in the news, or do the Oscars. So I didn't feel I was talking about film in the best way that I knew that I would like to, and felt that I could. And Andy and I have been friends for an awful long time, through various cinema chains. And I broached the subject with Andy, knowing that he had previously had something called the FilmFile, and spoke to him whether he was interested, and a podcast felt like the way forward. And I remember a very early conversation at the cinema where you work, saying, "What do you think to this?" And I think when you start on an idea, you kind of it could go either way. Andy could have said
Mm.
yes and decided to go for it, as he thankfully he did, or you could just let one of these things run and go, yeah, yeah, maybe good idea, we should do that. But we both jumped upon it, and and got things going pretty quickly, and we sort of figured it out as we went through, didn't we, Andy? I think more than anything
Yeah,
else.
felt our way through it. Yeah, I mean, see, there's one of my things. I mean, um, I'd done a radio show called The Film File back in like 2006 to 2008. And after that, I then put together a podcast whilst I was working at Cineworld called The Film File. We called it Film File from the Foyer, with some of the team there, that we recorded once a month. And we kept that running for about a year and a half, so about 14 episodes. And then we all kind of drifted and nothing happened again. And so it's always been on the back of my mind that I wanted to get back to doing a podcast. And I'd been talking about it at work with Scott, who featured on some of the earlier episodes, and hopefully we will get back from time to time into the new year. Uh, we bashed out ideas saying that, because we'd both done podcasts in the past, and it was just that right timing, because we were talking about the possibility of doing a podcast, and then you come along and go, "I'm thinking about doing a podcast." It was like perfect. We're all on the same mindset at this one point in time, and that's how it all got rolling pretty fast. And there's loads of we're aware that we're one little pebble in an ocean filled with rocks of podcasts about film. I
One
mean,
might say that we are the Dwaynes in the rocks.
and you can't turn around without seeing another film related podcast pop up. So we wanted something that kind of reflected us and didn't just copy everyone else. And the formula of the old radio show that I did was news, and then a look at something that we really love, and then um, a look at what the new releases are. And so that seemed like the perfect formula to just adopt. So, like, it was bringing the old Film File radio show back to life in podcast form. But we wanted it to not feel like we're just informing you of things. We wanted it, and this is where the whole idea behind the Film File is. We want it to be like you sat in a pub with your mates who are very enthusiastic about the subject that they're talking
Yeah.
about, and you're enthralled by their discussion as they're mocking each other, they're joking about the films, and they're talking about what's happening. And that's what feel we wanted it to be. We could have easily done a very straight laced, and now over to the news. And then you're going, yes, and in this news, so and then, okay, moving on to the reviews. But we don't. We keep it flippant. We keep it vibrant. And we let our passion show. And that's what we got the response from when that great review was put in the magazine, the local magazine, a few months ago, that he could pick up on the banter and the natural friendship that we built up. And
and
that's
and continue
exactly
to
what it was
build.
supposed to be.
And continue to build. I think what's been really interesting is our. I mean, we've known each other an awful long time, but I do think that the FilmFile has cemented our friendship and
Yeah,
made it much deeper. And you know, for a long time, especially during lockdown, you were the only other person I was talking to
yeah.
on a regular basis outside of family. And I think
I
that.
describe
Sorry, carry
go on.
on. And I think that cemented our relationship to the point where it is now. And I think, you know, through, and I was going to say through thick and thin, but the only kind of thins that we've had is been time schedule,
Yeah,
as opposed to a couple of problematic episodes with technology. But the majority of what we've done has been down to the fact that you and I have always rallied through together and figured
yeah,
it out. And it really bolstered our relationship now, and how close we've become because of it. So I'd never take that away from what the film files brought to us.
yeah, yeah. I've had some people at work who, like, when talking about podcasting, have says, "Oh, I've always thought, me and my mate have thought about doing a podcast," and my only response now is, "Just do it. Just sit yourself down round a table and record something. Don't just go for it. Once you've got that first episode out the way and you've publicised it, from that point onwards, it gets easier and easier to get into the flow. Because that first episode, man, we were just like grasping at ideas, and I was like, and when it came to the editing, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But and you can tell if you go back and listen to that first episode, you can tell that like it was very quickly put together. But anyone out there who's got an idea for a podcast and wants their voice to be heard, just do it. Just go for it
Yeah,
because it's such a joy. The reward is in the fun that we have each week
yeah,
chatting. We ha-
yeah.
we have we ha- We've had up to 3 hours worth of chat before now, which I've edited down to 1 hour 40 because we've just gone off on tangents and rants and talking about each other's lives. I mean, over the course of the shows, we started to add these little bits at the beginning where it's just talking about what's happened in your life and how's things going on, which the radio version doesn't get. But we keep it on the main podcast because that's us, that's our personalities, and that's what this is. This is us. This show is us to a T.
I think you're absolutely right. I think what we've done very well is reflect who we are, our worldview, and what's been going on around us, and you know, and that reflects into our reviews and into our talk about film, because it's not our only passions, but it's our passion that brought the film file to life, and you and I
Yeah,
to be friends. So I think keeping in those, and I was dubious about it at first. I know, but it helped define the show. It helped define who you and I were to our audience, and and I think it's made the show our show. And as you said, there are
yeah,
you can't throw a rock at podcasting without finding a film show. And
yeah,
you know, and I think that's our unique selling point. It's our passion, it's our belief in what we're talking about, it's our honesty about what we talk about, and also getting to know us. And we're not, hopefully for those who don't know us, we're not sort of just faceless guys trotting out what every other podcast doing. You get to see a little bit of our lives since we started, and it's been a ride. I mean, we've had to put up with a pandemic. Um, we've never faltered from being able to deliver. We've gone from doing every couple of weeks to a weekly. We stuck by that, and it's not always easy. You know, we've got to find time, and you know, sometimes life has a tendency to get in the way of this. But we always figure out how to deliver, even if it's last minute. We've
yeah,
done it. We used to be very last minute, didn't we? Very current, and we've
yeah,
given ourselves a bit of leeway now with the show. We've found a formula that works, and it has
yeah.
been an absolute blast. And I I remember talking about the 100th episode coming up and thinking, wow, I can't believe we've got that far, and now it's here. It's we you know, we should have brought a cake, because it is worth celebrating the fact that we've done. I mean, for
Yeah,
me, I wish we were out there and picking up 10 times the amount of listeners, but we are so grateful to those who do support the show, who do get in touch. and do listen. And you know what? I'm a podcast fanatic. I love a good podcast, and it's hard to stay with something, even the very slick ones, the expensive ones, to stay with it every week. So we don't expect you to be there every week, but thank you for subscribing. Thank you for coming back. We do it for the passion of being able to deliver to you guys. So thank you very much for sticking with us through 100 episodes or however many you've been involved in. But thank you. Just tell your friends. Tell 10 of your friends, and they'll tell 10, and eventually we'll have an empire. I mean, there's so much we'd love to do, isn't there?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've got grand ideas that we need to rein ourselves in, because we can't afford the grand ideas at this point in time.
Yeah.
We have time-wise or money-wise, but we would love to be able to bring some of the grand ideas to you all out there. It was interesting because Spotify this week has been doing its Wrapped thing, well, the past couple of weeks, where you get to see your stats, but the podcasters also get their own Spotify Wrapped for podcasters. And one of the things that cropped up is that over this past year, we've released 3,773 minutes worth of the podcast.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. When you look at it like that.
That puts into context exactly how much we put into this each year. But yeah, we like you said, we've changed how we used to record it. We used to record it last minute on a Tuesday, and then I'd literally have to finish recording, go straight onto editing, and then I'd been editing until like 1 or 2 in the morning before now. But once we started working with No Barriers Radio, we then had the deadline that I couldn't, because we used to be able to put it off the editing until like Thursday. We could release the podcast when we wanted. But once you got the radio deadline, I've got to get it to them by the end of Wednesday night. So that was when it was like, we need to record earlier and give me a bit of time, because if work gets in the way, I need to scrape whatever time I can get. So we now generally record on a Sunday, usually about midday, which it's nice and bright at the moment. Not very sunny, but bright.
Yeah.
And that gives me a couple of days to be able to space out the editing. And I've done it before now where I've had loads of time, and I'll edit a couple of like half an hour's worth on the Sunday, and then I'll go back to it on the Monday and do a few tweaks. Then I'll do a few more tweaks on the Tuesday, and then wrap everything up on the Wednesday. Or I've done it where I've gone, I've got loads of time to do it, and then it gets to 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. It's like, quick, edit. But that's on me. At least it's on me, and I don't feel the pressure unless I force myself to feel the pressure.
And yeah, of course, we have the radio version. So if you didn't know, this goes out on No Barriers Radio, which is an online radio station, and we retrofit the show basically to fit into a radio format, and that brings in listeners as well who don't necessarily subscribe but listen to the show, which I'm told is very popular. And it's just great. You've given us other avenues, and I think that's what we will think about over the next year, is being able to get out there, build up our coverage, get to more people, and how we can do that. And we've got a product now, and that's the beginning of the whole race. Yeah. Without having the FilmFile to be able to move things forward, then the future's got some. It's kind of endless to where we can go. Andy started the TikTok thing. He's incredible at pulling together the social media side. But yeah, it's been a blast.